This story tells of ancient times that were filled with constant battles and wars. Previously, our main character believed that even a talented guy like him could start his life from scratch. He hoped that he would get a chance at a new life and be able to start a family, because that's what he always wanted. But it was a mistake. Now the same young and famous warrior Agric from the Drenic Empire looks powerless after a brutal confrontation with the enemy. He realized that he had been recognized. Most likely a very serious person was standing in front of him, Duke Booth Termion. This warrior belongs to the Altion Empire. He is one of the 6 Hexa-class knights in the Altion Empire. The Duke doesn't want to kill such a talented guy so quickly. Maybe Agric will want to surrender. It's probably impossible because this guy was born during a battle and is ready to die with a sword in his hands. The Duke hopes that this talent will be able to achieve a much better fate in the next life. But now it is all over for him. The war between the Drenic Empire and the Altion Empire lasted for many years. The mother of our main character was a young girl who lost her husband and was fleeing the war. She left Agric alone in this chaotic world because when he was still very young, she fell ill and died very quickly. It was obvious what would happen to the orphan of the war. Nothing good could be expected for this little boy. Life awaits him only for his own survival, and he must be ready for anything for the sake of this goal. When he was only 14 years old, he was sent to his first battlefield with his sword raised high. It was at that moment that his talents began to awaken. He fought like a true wild beast and disregarded authority. The core of mana in his heart elevated his movements and feelings to another level, transforming him into a true martial arts master. The boy grew up very quickly and became a commander, and he was recommended as a special knight. He was to join the 5 Hexa-class knights of the Empire and receive all the opportunities he had long dreamed of. Agric was sure that after this war, he would finally find peace, exactly what he had long dreamed of. This long and difficult life had already taken almost all of his strength. He wanted peace, wanted to become an ordinary family man, and forget about the war. At the moment when it seemed like everything was over, he saw a bright flash of light in front of him and found himself in a completely different body. The boy opened his eyes and realized that he was now a child, and his parents were standing above him, looking at him with happy smiles. Now he is Dwayne Sawgrass, a member of a fairly wealthy family who must start his entire journey from the very beginning. His father, Arkin Sogers, is confident that Dwayne will become a fantastic warrior and follow in his father's footsteps. His mother, Lily Sawgrass, hopes this never happens, because her son Dwayne is destined to become a fantastic assassin. In any case, the parents will have to talk a lot before choosing a future profession for their son. The little talent thought everything was over, but now he got a chance to live in a large and wealthy family and start everything from scratch. He will become part of the Altion Empire, that is, he will be a member of the enemy army, because his father is a count, which means that the son must be part of the army. His parents have been engaged in fierce debates about his future from the very beginning, but so far Dwayne has paid no attention to it. He was born in their later years, which is probably why they want him to follow their path and become a great warrior. Dwayne looked happy, as if he was enjoying his new role in his new family. He saw his new home and realized that it would be much easier for his talents to spread their wings than expected. After that day, another 2 months passed. The parents constantly spent time with the child and did not give him the opportunity to be sad. Previously, there were almost no opportunities to meet young children because he was constantly on the battlefield. The small number of children he saw were wrapped in various rags and constantly crying because they had nowhere to go. They were constantly crying over the death of their parents and slowly fading away, dying of hunger, so now he was very lucky to be in a different place. In such a house he won't be able to starve, but he will have to get used to the fact that his father dreams of making him a professional warrior with a spear. His father is the strongest Hexa-class spearman in the Empire, Arkin Sogras. He was a war hero known as the Blue Tornado. Lily immediately started yelling at her husband and said that you can't bring such items into the nursery. She had long said that she didn't want to teach her child until she was at least a few years old. In the past, she was the best assassin in the Empire. She was called the Black Death and feared like fire. Perhaps the reason the parents are so eager to educate their child is that the 2 older sisters have chosen professions unrelated to war. Soon he met his sisters. They also fell in love with their brother and often came to visit him. Arabella Sogras has an incredible talent for magical power, and from childhood she followed the path of a sorcerer. At 12 years old, she was already a 3rd-level sorcerer, meaning she was considered a genius. Now we can talk about the other sister, Claire Sawgrass, because she also has her own talent, and she can summon magical creatures. She is called a summoner. She made her first summon at the age of 7, and is able to hold 2 summons at the same time. At first, Dwayne thought he didn't like Claire, but it was probably because of the jealousy one feels when a younger sibling is born. Now she is less afraid of her brother, and even touches him more often because he is too soft. She even said that she would teach him to summon magical creatures if he had such a talent. Each of them wants to help the little boy master his specialty, because everyone in this family is a true professional in their field. The house of Count Soger is the ideal noble family, and in general the ideal family that Agric constantly imagined. Now he is trying to understand if there is any point in revenge in this new life, because before he constantly dreamed of it. Now it's hard to even think about revenge, to the person who defeated him honestly and fairly. He always hoped to have a full-fledged family, and he is happy to have been born into this family. It seemed to him that this family was very harmonious and would be able to help him fully reveal his talents. It should also be said that in the Sogra's house there is one special ceremony to which a lot of attention is always paid: the ceremony of choice. When a child born into a family turns 1 year old, many different objects are placed on the table in front of him. People try to predict a child's future by the object they grab and lift. Today is little Dwayne's first birthday, and everyone is wondering what subject he will choose at the selection ceremony. Many people gathered at the estate, not only family members and friends, but also ordinary servants of the Soger family. Now Dwayne must make his choice, because much of his future fate will depend on this choice. Everyone hopes that the boy will choose the exact item they put down, especially the father, who dreams that his son will choose the spear. The tip of the spear is called the dragon's tail. It is made of rare Dukran ore and has mana invested in it. This is the spear his father spent his entire life with, but his mother hopes that Dwayne will make a different choice and take up the dagger in his own hands. The dagger is called the Nightclaw. It is made of Ifril and is able to contain all the elements of the world and combine them with various poisons. Young Arkan is absolutely certain that her younger brother will become a great wizard and will follow her to the academy in the future. She placed a spatial pouch on the table, an item that only sorcerers or those people who have a talent for magic can use. Although Claire doesn't look very confident, if Dwayne can summon creatures, she'll take him with her on the Decaron. She placed a summoning sign on the table. Summoners use this sign and receive a code depending on their talent. Dwayne looks at all the members of his family and feels like he can hear their inner thoughts. He doesn't really like it. It's unpleasant, but he can't avoid it because today he has to make a choice. You need to look at the reaction of each family member and base your choice on that. As soon as he got closer to all the objects, everything around him began to glow in different colors, and no one could understand what was happening. The problem is that all 4 objects showed a reaction when the little boy approached them. It seems as if Dwayne Sawgrass is a true genius of a generation and has an extraordinary future ahead of him. He was talented during the war, in a past life, but now he has reached a completely different level, and no one can understand anything. The parents looked at each other and realized that the boy's education would be completely different. They won't teach him anything separately, but instead try to combine the skills of all 4 professions. It seems that little Dwayne has a very interesting future ahead of him, but in order to fully unleash his potential, he will have to work very hard. 6 more years passed after that day, and Dwayne Sawgrass became older and much stronger. His father constantly trains him to fight and use a spear as his primary weapon. Now he has perfectly honed the technique he learned from his father, and now he knows how to not only defend, but also counterattack. At this moment, the training was stopped, and the servant Herman approached them and brought something. This item is a gift for Dwayne for his birthday. His father had planned to give it during the celebration, but decided to do it earlier. This list has been in preparation for 2 years. It is a special order from a famous master from the capital. The father wished his son a happy birthday early, and Dwayne was shocked and excited at the same time. He thanked his father for such an expensive gift, and promised himself that he would master this weapon perfectly. The son remembers the difference between a spear and a sword, because the length of the spear allows him to effectively limit his opponent from approaching him. Thanks to the narrow contact area, the spear has high attack efficiency and helps maintain perfect balance. When Dwayne reaches a higher level, the spear will be harder to use than the sword, and this is the main problem with the spear. To attack an opponent, a minimum distance is required, but you don't need to worry too much about this, because every weapon has its pros and cons. Even swords, which are called perfect weapons, become weak in some conditions. Now Dwayne has his own personal spear, and his father can show him something special. This is the magical power of a Hexa-class spearman. Even the ordinary magical power he emits can already cause damage to the opponent. The little boy watched with happy eyes as his father demonstrated all his talents in this difficult task. For him, this is a real masterclass. He saw how his father distorts the space around him, using the radiation of magical power. This technique uses the properties of the core and converts magical power in one place, something Dwayne had heard about from his sisters. People can push themselves beyond their physical limits, and as the number of cores increases, so does strength and talent. In his past life, Dwayne had 4 cores, and now his father has 6 mana cores. If the day hadn't died in its past life, it would have been able to achieve this as well, but now it has a better chance to show its full potential anyway. Now he can also try to demonstrate similar tricks with a spear. The main thing is to relax his mind and body. His father advised him to forget all his thoughts and focus on the spear. His body would do everything else without him. In his past life, he never had much interest in spears until he realized he had a talent for fencing. He used the spear as a secondary item, but now everything has changed and he is ready to master the martial art completely. The father is satisfied with the pace of his son's learning. It took him 7 years to master this technique. He was shocked when his son focused and demonstrated incredible talent from the first seconds of his attack. Arkansas doesn't understand how Dwayne was able to do this, but he is incredibly happy that his son turned out to be a genius. The moment Dwayne launched his attack, he gathered all of his magical power into one place and channeled it into the tip of his spear. The father was happy and immediately explained to his son that he had just formed a mana core. Dwayne had already read a book about creating mana cores and now he tried to do it in practice. He was very lucky because he succeeded on the first try. Now the father has no doubt that a genius was born in his home. He felt it from the very birth, but now he is completely sure of it. One day Dwayne should become a great knight, but for now he must continue his studies. Fast forward to the 7th birthday of Dwayne Sawgrass, the youngest son of the Sawgrass family. Many people gathered here. They all came to the celebration ceremony to congratulate the little genius. The family is very wealthy, which is why many influential people from high society come to every birthday party. Today you can also meet Duke Thermion here. He is the boss of the Duchy of Thermion, a grand house of the Alteon Empire. These two are old friends, they serve together, and that's why Arkan still can't help but refer to his friend as a general. As soon as he saw Thermion in front of him, he immediately called his son to introduce him to his friend. Recall that it was Duke Booth Thermion who killed our main character in his past life. Today he came here to welcome Dwayne in his new body, although of course he is unaware of the reincarnation of this talented warrior. Little Dwayne bowed his head and said that it was a great honor for him to meet such a distinguished person. Booth Thermion laughed and said that Count Arkan need not worry because he had a wonderful son growing up. After a short conversation, a young lady approached them and greeted today's birthday boy and his father. Her name is Leila Thermion. She's the youngest daughter of the Duchy of Thermion, and now Dwayne is officially acquainted with her. The evening continued, with lots of delicious food, great music, and pleasant conversations to be seen all around. The two experienced warriors looked a little sad. They were talking about Baroness Thermion. It turned out that so far their illness was constantly progressing. Arkan stated that he knew about his comrade's ordeal, but was confident that they would be able to recover. Meanwhile, little Dwayne went outside with Leila. Probably this party was too boring for both of them. Usually the little lady doesn't like to follow her father everywhere, but today she is happy because she liked Dwayne right away. This area is a good place for quiet meetings and conversations. They both have a great time. Leila said that something is constantly happening on the territory of Thermion, and you can rarely feel calm there. Nobles come every day to pay homage to their father, and sometimes even the imperial family comes. Leila hates days like these. She has to constantly wear the best dresses, but the girl prefers to train with a sword and spend time at home. Dwayne said that he also loves training, and looks forward to meeting his spear every day. He is confident that he will be able to enter the academy and become one of the greatest warriors of all time. He is not exactly afraid of disappointing his family members, but he has no doubt that he will succeed. Leila asked her new friend to look at her fencing skills. She looked happy and said she really wanted to show off her talent. Dwayne had no right to refuse. Soon they were on the sports field, and the little lady took up the sword. Dwayne calmly watched her and saw that she transitioned perfectly from attack to defense, and she also had perfect timing. He also noticed that after a while she started to get a little out of rhythm, so her technique wasn't perfect. Like a true gentleman, he said it all looked fantastic, and he was very pleased to watch her movements. At first he thought about stopping there, but then he couldn't help himself and talked about some of the nuances. Starting from the third form, she looked like she was making a little extra movements, and this should be abandoned in the future. Dwayne thought he had been too harsh with his new acquaintance because his words had really upset her. After that, Leila immediately raised the sword above her head and demonstrated several more active movements. She almost fell to the ground, and only at the last moment did she grab hold of today's birthday boy. This was a rather interesting and important moment, which may be even more important in their future. Soon the little warriors heard that they were already being searched for and decided to return to the holiday. After some time, Dwayne received gifts from his family members, as well as everyone who came to this holiday. He received a brooch with the family coat of arms from his mother. He had already seen something similar in his sister's rooms, and he had always dreamed of receiving such a gift. Lily is sure that this brooch will serve as proof of his status and honor. She has long dreamed of giving this item to her son. Dwayne received many congratulations from all members of this celebration. His parents were happy to arrange a special day for him. Dwayne also noticed that for the first time he was receiving warm applause from a large number of people. Strangely enough, in this, In a past life, he could not even dream of something like that. It's strange because at such a pleasant and peaceful moment, the people in the middle of the estate heard very loud screams, as if a war had begun. The father asked his son to calm down, saying that everything starts over, even though it was expected that today would be quiet. Only the father of the family remained calm. Everyone else panicked, especially when a blue aura appeared around them. There is no doubt that only a special sorcerer could create such an aura, and we already know that there is a person with the right characteristics in the Sogra family. The eldest child of the family, Lady Arabella, was already quite grown up, and almost forgot to greet her only brother. She used the teleportation technique, and this speaks volumes about her incredible talent, which continues to unfold every year. At that moment, people looked out the window and saw terrible monsters in the sky, and panic began. Only a little later did they look closer and see that a girl with blonde hair was sitting on the back of one of the dragons. Claire Sogras was also late for her brother's birthday, and she too had changed since our last meeting. This is how the sisters appeared at Dwayne's birthday party. As we've seen, they love outrageousness. A little later, they approached their brother and wished him a happy birthday. Dwayne thanked them for the congratulations and gifts. He knows they came a long way to make it to this celebration. The father was upset because on his birthday they gave him a regular letter. Probably they loved their brother more than their father. From his older sister, Dwayne received a spacious bag in the form of a ring. She personally designed it. Spatial magic was at the highest level, and the professor also helped her, so this is a truly expensive gift. Dwayne knows how difficult it is to imbue an object with spatial magic, but creating an artifact that will be imbued with magic is even more difficult. A genetic code has been applied to this ring, so no one but Dwayne will be able to use it. Judging by the fact that a small wave of mana could be seen from this ring, Arabella was using higher-class magic stones. Such items were only used by wealthy people on the battlefield, such as commanders who were born nobles or sorcerers. Dwayne could never have imagined that he would receive something like this, so now he is incredibly happy. Everyone around was shocked when they saw that the little boy opened the space even faster than his older sister. Now there is no doubt that a little genius is growing inside them, who will be able to reach incredible heights. Now it's time to look at the gift from the other sister. It turned out to be an egg. No one around could understand what kind of egg Claire had given. Some even thought it was just an ordinary chicken egg. Actually, this is a familiar. Claire previously tried to summon a Decoran and received this very egg. She is not sure what exactly will hatch from the egg, but she is absolutely sure that it is a very valuable item. I've heard of something like this before. Familiars, unlike summoned creatures, are a separate entity, although they resemble them. Once summoned, a familiar can remain in this world forever, unlike summoned creatures. No one knows about it yet except Dwayne, so his sister asked him to keep it a secret until some creature hatched from the egg. Arabella wanted them to speak louder so everyone could hear their secret, but Claire kept talking only for Dwayne. She explained that mana must be poured into this egg every day, so that later this creature will recognize Dwayne as its master. Only after presenting the gifts did the father finally hug his daughters, whom he had not seen for a long time. They all look healthy and have come a long way for their little brother. Now it's time for a little rest. All this time, Leila was carefully watching Dwayne and his family. For some reason, the girl looked completely unhappy, as if this scene was painful for her. Dwayne immediately noticed a change in her mood, as if the girl looked very lonely and was about to go home. Alliances are very often created between wealthy families. This is done through the marriage of children from different families. Booth Thermian noted that the witch from the Sogers family turned out to be much more talented than he had expected. She is now the best wizard in the academy and a coveted talent for everyone, so this girl is a perfect match for his son, the best swordsman. If these two families were able to unite, it would create a faction that even the imperial family would find difficult to touch. It was at this moment that Booth Termian decided to invite these older children to a conversation and do everything to bring their union closer. A little later, he heard strange sounds on the training ground. The Duke was surprised that someone had already been training since the morning. He went to this training arena and saw a young boy from the Sogra family who had come here to improve his skills. The Duke was surprised because this boy's movements were incredible. His concentration was not even close to the level of a 7-year-old boy. Even his ordinary strikes are so high in technique that even experienced warriors can envy this power. Duke thought it was all just rumors, but it turned out to be true. Dwayne is really incredibly talented for his age. The boy noticed that someone was watching him. He ordered the scoundrel to leave immediately, if he was not afraid of suffering severe punishment. Soon the Duke came out and showed his face. He apologized to the boy who had watched his training without permission. When Dwayne saw the Duke in front of him, he immediately apologized for his behavior and also became very serious. The Duke said he was very surprised to see the little boy's talent and apologized for spying on the training. He immediately noticed that this child had courage, Now it was clear why his body did not tremble at all when meeting the Duke. Even Booth at his age did not create a single mana core, which speaks of Dwayne's extraordinary talent. After this conversation, the Duke even started thinking about a future union between Leila and Dwayne. It would be perfect. He said that they could become good friends when they studied together at the academy. After that, the Duke decided to talk about fencing skills, as if he had noticed that Dwayne had a talent for it. The boy was surprised, and even a little scared. He realized that his habits from a past life had manifested themselves during training. The Duke also tensed up. He could feel this boy's incredible experience, even though he was only 7 years old. Soon they said goodbye and wished each other success. Booth promised that they would definitely meet in the capital. He wants to repay the hospitality he received at the Count's estate, and so he personally invites Dwayne to visit him. Meanwhile, the boy tried to understand whether the Duke remembered him, whether he felt his soul. He thought about defeating the Duke who had killed him in his past life, and the thought alone made his blood boil. If he starts preparing for it step by step now, it will become possible, and Booth Thermion will be waiting for his own death. Soon, the servant Herman approached the little warrior and gave Dwayne a great fright. He said that all the adults in the house were busy preparing for the second banquet, and other nobles had already begun to arrive. In wealthy estates, this is how birthdays and various holidays are celebrated. Here, such events stretch over several days. All this has a simple explanation. There are so many guests that it is impossible to accommodate them in the estate at the same time. His sisters opened the teleportation gate and went to the academy. They had no choice because they had exams coming up soon. Due to the absence of his sisters, Dwayne looked a little sad. He wanted them to be there at that moment. In any case, he tried to behave obediently and enjoy the moment. The nobleman's life turned out to be harder than he expected, his birthday making his schedule too busy. He often finds peace resting in the garden. The estate's head gardener very quickly transformed this place into a true paradise. Dwayne feels extraordinary when he looks at flowers. He finds peace and balance in them. His older sister said that flowers hold the greatest amount of mana in nature. Perhaps now it is time to analyze these words in practice. Dwayne trains as actively as possible, but he has no noticeable development in magic or summoning. He still can't figure out what to focus all his attention on, so he tries to study in 7th grade a little at a time. Sometimes a large number of talents can only interfere, concentration decreases, and it becomes harder to understand what is really important. If a person can sense the natural source of mana and make it their own, then the mana can reside in the body and become a magic circle. This body's susceptibility to mana is enormous. Dwayne knows that he can notice some things that are inaccessible to all other people. Now, the mana that he had barely seen before was starting to be much clearer and more concentrated. Next to him, you could see 2 young boys. They were too bored because their parents were busy celebrating. They decided to go outside and walk around the flowers for a bit, and they saw a little boy in front of them. They thought that this child was lost, and perhaps he was some servant who could show them more interesting places. When Dwayne noticed them, his expression immediately changed, and he became very serious and even irritated. He couldn't behave any differently when he saw these 2 guys standing on flowers, as if it was normal practice. He started yelling at them and ordered them to move away immediately. Even fools know that you can't walk on flowers. The guys haven't yet realized that they are dealing with the young heir to the Sogre family. They think he's just a fool who doesn't understand who he's talking to. The eldest of the brothers grabbed Dwayne and said that they were the sons of Count Tyrons, a guest of this estate. Dwayne immediately remembered that this was the same nobleman who had been captured after he had defeated him in a past life. He was a very bad nobleman, and it turned out that his sons also did not know how to behave like aristocrats. They wanted to beat up little Dwayne, but he didn't have time for boys who could be so easily offended. Realizing that the situation was getting out of control, he delivered a hard headbutt to his opponent's nose and demonstrated who the real bull was. Count Tyrons' youngest son was frightened and immediately began to help his older brother. Dwayne, on the other hand, remained calm and smiled. He said that if they had any problems, they could arrange a second round. With blood on his face, one of the brothers now began to attack his enemy and prepared for a fierce battle. Judging by his technique, it can be understood that he has not mastered weapons at all and has not studied martial arts. He may be a sorcerer or a summoner, but judging from the first minutes of the battle, he is not going to use his skills. If Dwayne can bend magic to his will, then learn to compress the power of mana into physical form. He tried to do this with the help of the mana of the flowers that were nearby and gave him an additional source of energy. He mastered this technique very quickly and was able to use the power of mana to attack his new enemy and cause him serious damage. Now this cheeky guy will think twice before approaching or even looking in Dwayne's direction. It seemed that now he would never cause problems again, but the blood of Count Tyrons flows in him, which means that the problems will not end. He said that he also knows how to use magic and is ready to demonstrate his full potential right now, regardless of the consequences. Only now did it become clear that this guy also knows how to summon various creatures, just like Sister Claire. He said his name was Dygron, and no one had the right to break his nose, so now Dwayne must be punished. It seems like an ordinary wolf, but to stop this creature you need to have enough skills and strength. Dwayne feels inferior compared to his sister Claire, who can summon dragons, but that doesn't mean he's scared. He remained calm and focused, as if he were going to destroy this creature with his bare hands. Then something extremely strange happened. The wolf changed its color and began to look aggressively at its owner. Dygron couldn't understand what was happening. The wolf should be completely under his control, but now he was planning to attack him. He tried to get the wolf to tear this little boy apart, but this creature had no intention of doing so at all. Now that Dwayne thinks about it, he remembers that even his sister's creatures were very friendly, but he thought it was because of her. Only now does it become clear that there was no connection. Probably all this is possible only because of his special skills and talents. The younger brother began to calm Dygron and asked him to immediately stop this conflict. It turned out that he was so scared that he even wet his shorts, which is a serious sign of panic. The older brother took Dinar with him and took him to change clothes, but he promised to return soon for a rematch. Dwayne tried to forget about this whole situation and ignore his new enemies. Instead, he thought about his talents and their development. In fact, it all turned out to be a fairly simple technique, just like Sister Claire had taught him. All you have to do is take possession of the creature's magic and subdue it to your own energy, and after that, this creature will be connected to Dwayne. He didn't do anything even close to a real challenge, but because of his talents, he was able to subdue the great wolf. Soon Dwayne saw that Dygron had returned with his father, and told him that it was at this very place that he had been brutally beaten and insulted. He said that he and his younger brother were bullied, and even their connection with the wolf Genpu was cancelled. Count Mogard Tyrons stepped forward and said that he was the head of the Count Tyron family, one of the most distinguished nobles in the capital. Dwayne immediately noticed that this count looked fatter than when they last met. Probably a quiet life had changed this scoundrel. The count said that he could not let this pass his attention. As an invited guest, he had the right to restore justice. Dwayne lowered his head and said that he was the youngest heir to the Sogra family, and it was in his honor that the celebration was held. At this moment, father and son were shocked and couldn't believe that all this was really happening to them. If Dwayne tells his father about everything that happened now, a full-blown conflict could erupt in a matter of seconds. Very quickly, Mogard realized that he could use this to his own advantage. He achieved nothing during the war, and was even captured by the agrics. But now he will turn this situation to his advantage. He wants to do everything possible to make Count Sogras bear responsibility for this situation and give him the right to extract minerals in this territory. Previously, the nobles looked at him as a pile of trash, but now he will turn the situation in his favor. He said that his little son was injured, and also that their wolf was stolen, and all of this is a very serious crime. He wants to speak to Count Arkin personally and hear his apology for this unpleasant situation. His entire personality was rotten through and through. Dwayne said he didn't mind it, but first he wanted to hear an apology. He did indeed hit de Grand Terrain, but it was all only in self-defense because he was in danger. He also didn't try to take the Genpa away. The animal decided to switch to his side on its own, even if de Grand doesn't believe it. Mogard had already heard that the second daughter of the Count's family was a brilliant conjurer. She must have taught the boy how to do these tricks. Their conversation was soon interrupted when Count Sogras noticed his son's absence and went in search of him. As soon as Mogard and his son saw the Count, they immediately changed their appearance and became childishly frightened. They were shocked because Duke Thermion also came with the Count, the situation becoming increasingly tense. The sun had set, but the conflict was still unresolved, and all sides were trying to understand what had happened. Count Arkin is very worried about his family, but he did not have time to be biased towards one of the parties to the conflict. Even in such situations, he can easily distinguish good from evil and understand who is really to blame for the conflict. Considering that the Tyron family knows how to lie with an innocent face, it is difficult to predict what will happen in the future. Soon the Count said that they could not listen to only one side of the conflict, so his son must also speak. He is not going to draw conclusions on his own. Duke Thermion can help with this, because all parties to the conflict respect him. Father and son realized that the Duke's intervention would only complicate the situation, and they immediately had a bad feeling. Now the time has come when Dwayne must tell everything that happened and not hide anything from his father. Dwayne told everything that happened, about the flowers that were trampled, as well as about the attack from which he had to defend himself. He also said that he heard very clearly how his opponent summoned the wolf and ordered it to be killed. He wasn't going to take the spirit with him. The wolf just approached him and decided to go over to his side. Mogard calls all this a delusion. He said that the creatures that were summoned cannot cross over to the other side without the use of magic. Dwayne said that he had a natural talent, so he didn't even try to do anything wrong. The Duke decided to intervene in the conflict and said that they had to make sure that the guy was really capable of doing this in real life. If Dwayne can demonstrate this right now, then all doubts about his words will disappear. The eldest son is injured and cannot summon the wolf. He asks his father to call the younger son. Dwayne looked calm. He knows perfectly well that he broke the connection, so now Dygron won't be able to summon his monster. A little later, he said that he could summon the wolf himself, but for this, he needed the sign of the Tyron family. They were against passing on their family mark to another person, but this was the only way to summon this wolf now. A little later, Dygron received an order from his father and was forced to obey immediately. Since the unique color code is drawn on that sign, no one else can use it. But the Genpu that Dygron summoned was imbued with Dwayne's mana, so that changed everything. This wolf is now connected to this guy and only he can call him for help. As soon as the wolf appeared, it immediately began licking its new owner. Everyone around was shocked. It seemed to them that such tricks were impossible without outside support or dark magic. But Dwayne was telling the truth, all because of his innate talent. Now Count Mogard realized that this whole situation had turned into a disaster, although he had completely different plans. They will have to admit that all this time Dwayne was telling the truth, and he is not at all to blame for this conflict between the families. Mogard still tried to assure them that his son had not attacked anyone, and they only wanted justice. At this moment, Leila Termayan intervened in the conversation. She had been nearby the whole time and had heard what they were talking about. The girl said that during her walk she heard what happened near the garden and could be an independent witness to the situation. Dwayne didn't expect this at all, but Leila did tell him that he was absolutely right and was only trying to protect himself during the conflict. A little later, the Count and his son were forced to apologize to the owners of the house. I also had to apologize to Dwayne because he was the offended party in this situation. Dwayne didn't want to accept this apology, but based on his past experience, he realized that it was beneficial to show generosity. Although he accepted the apology, the conflict was over, but Count Arkan Sogris is not going to forget this situation. He's very angry that his son was tried to be killed during his birthday celebration, and he does not want to hear any excuses. He ordered the Tyron family to immediately take all their belongings and leave. He no longer wants to see them in his home. Mogard has come a long way, and if he's driven out of here now, it will all be meaningless. So he is trying to establish contact with Arkan to the end. But even that didn't help him. Arkan refused to shake his hand and said he would send soldiers to their room. That's how this story ended. Those who started the conflict deservedly failed. Dwayne never expected that his father could get so angry over such trivial things. A little later, his mood improved again, and he began to discuss his son's talent with his friend. Meanwhile, the Duke realized that Leila saved the boy with her testimony. This was a good moment for them to get even closer to each other. From the very beginning, he began talking about a potential wedding and the rapprochement of the two families. The Count was very surprised. As soon as he heard about all this talk, he said that the banquet had to start now and that he had a lot of things to do. They tried to stop him, but he didn't want to listen to anything. The conversation about his son's wedding was too exciting for the experienced Count. In any case, Leila and Dwayne have become closer, and now all these conversations really have a basis. A little later, the two of them reminded the girl that he had also helped her during fencing, so it was nice that she thanked him. She really saved him from an unpleasant situation, so this is the beginning of a good friendship for many years to come. Perhaps for Leila, all this doesn't look like friendship at all, but like something much more. She looked so happy that she decided to immediately ask Dwayne to teach her how to use the mana ball. She wants to create 2 mana cores for herself before entering the academy, become stronger, and make her parents happy. At that moment, Dwayne immediately remembered how the adults had talked about the Duke's mother, Countess Thermian, who hardly ever leaves her room. If Leila wants to make her mother happy so badly, then Dwayne cannot refuse her this request. Meanwhile, during the banquet, the adults learned about the conflict that had occurred on the street, and that Count Tyron had been expelled from the estate. All the details became hotly debated. Some even started inventing some details that didn't actually exist. Soon, Baron Opent heard about all these rumors. He came to personally congratulate little Dwayne on his birthday and the discovery of his abilities. It turns out he also brought his little daughter with him to congratulate Dwayne. Her name is Sylvia, and she is also about the same age as Dwayne. The boy was very surprised. He probably didn't expect that he would have to meet another potential wife. She already knows that he is the same guy who will get the Sogris house in the future, and that says a lot. His talents have already been heard about even in distant territories, so Sylvia wants him to protect her, because in the future they can become a family. Children these days are very straightforward, but we must not forget that they are easy to offend. Leila had been looking for Dwayne for a long time, and was unpleasantly surprised when she saw him next to Sylvia. She doesn't know this girl, but seeing her good looks and fashionable dress, she realized that she had a competitor. An aura of murder immediately began to be felt around him, and Dwayne felt uncomfortable being around girls. He had seen something similar before when his sisters fought with each other, and now he understands that women are the most terrifying creatures in the galaxy. Leila took Dwayne with her and said that they needed to talk immediately because they already had a meeting scheduled. Sylvia quickly guessed that the young daughter of the Duke was claiming to be her future husband, and they would both have to fight for Dwayne. On the street, Dwayne reassured his girlfriend and said that they had only just met Sylvia, and there had been no talk of marriage yet. As soon as the girl heard about this, she immediately started looking happy. Now they can calmly start training. Dwayne brought her to a secret place, where no one would bother them, and they could do whatever they wanted. Leila said that she had already felt the mana, not enough to form a core, but just enough to breathe this energy into herself. For the next few minutes, he told her about the process of forming a mana ball. It was simple for him, but it was the first time Leila had heard it. He asked her to imagine mana concentrating in one place and try to subdue this force with her own consciousness. It was clear from the expression on her face that she didn't understand anything. But in any case, during the training process, the girl would be able to master this technique. After a few minutes, Leila got upset and said that she couldn't do anything. But this was just the basics, so you shouldn't expect success from the first try. Count Sagras was pleasantly surprised that at such a young age his son was already teaching others. He secretly watched them, and did not even suspect that Duke Thermion was behind him. The Count's wife is a legendary assassin of the Empire, but he couldn't even learn from her to sense danger in the approach of other people. Within a few minutes, the friends calmed down and together secretly watched their children and their training. Meanwhile, Dwayne didn't notice anything and continued to explain the basics of mana possession to Leila. He said that he learned all this from his older sisters, who often tell him secrets from the academy. Leila replied that she was less fortunate because her older brothers paid no attention to her at all after they started studying at the academy. A little later, Dwayne took out a mirror and asked the girl to stand in front of it and look at herself from all sides. Meanwhile, the parents talked about their children and hoped that this friendship would continue in future generations. The Duke said that his daughter was only bright on the outside, but he could not know anything about her inner state. After her brothers left for the academy, her mother became seriously ill, so they couldn't be together like before. Leila has a hard time opening up to other people. Perhaps she needs attention from her father, who is constantly busy with work. Sometimes he's deliberately quite cold towards her, because when he forgave his sons, he loved them too much, and they grew up disobedient. He doesn't want Leila to be the same, so he gives her less attention. She has to take lessons from Dwayne. After that, they started talking about the Count's son. When he goes to study in the capital, he can live in the Duke's house. There he will be able to get even closer to Leila, and perhaps in the future, a beautiful union will result from this. Today's holiday must have been too boring, because not only the men and children went outside, even the mistress of the house did it. Lily Sagras has been searching for her husband and the Duke for a long time, and she is upset that they are both behaving so shamefully. Surely the love they feel for their children completely occupies their hearts, so the left will have to pretend like it didn't see anything. After training, Leila thanked her friend for his help. Now even she was convinced that he was a real genius. It turned out that Dwayne knew all along that his parents were watching him, but he didn't even show it. They started talking about the academy because all talented children must enroll in the capital. Dwayne is not sure he needs it. He can become strong even by training on his own, although Leila disagrees with this opinion. From her childhood, she already knows how important it is to study at the academy in order to gain opportunities and connections in the future. Dwayne will have to decide. He has many books at home, as well as constant opportunities for training, but the academy opens up much greater opportunities. Leila said that when Dwayne studies in the capital, they will be able to see each other more often and spend time together. Soon the celebration was over. The guests gathered to return home and began to say goodbye to the owner of the house. Dwayne received a gift from Duke Thermion, something like a brick with a pattern. The Duke said that the symbol of his house is revenge, a sword, and a blacksmith, because the history of their house began with a man who was a blacksmith. Thanks to him, their family is known as the best blacksmith in the Empire, and perhaps even on the entire continent. All the weapons used by the Empire were made in this forge, so it is a legendary place in its own way. From Dwayne's past life, he knows that there are many interesting things to find there: mystical weapons, artifacts, and even precious crystals. If Dwayne goes to the forge and shows them this sign, he will immediately receive any weapon of his choice. This sign confirms that the person who possesses this sign has high-level skills and abilities, something even the imperial family dreams of. Such a gift can be considered very valuable. Dwayne was happy and thanked the Duke. He was very sad to see Leila off. This girl became his first friend, because even in his past life he had no close people. When he goes to the capital, they will definitely meet. He just needs to get a little older, and it would be nice to impress his girlfriend. As soon as the Duke got into the carriage, He immediately became much more serious, the smile on his face disappearing. Every time he sees this little guy named Dwayne, he remembers a completely different person he met on the battlefield. He is referring to a warrior named Agric, who at a young age displayed triple-class abilities. If he were alive, he could have become one of the Hex-class knights of the Drenic Empire. But history took a different path. Several days passed after these events, but Dwayne did not forget about his sister's gift and fed the egg to his mother every day. An egg with a mysterious familiar excites his imagination, and he longs to gain control of the extraordinary creature as quickly as possible. He enjoys the thought of being able to constantly control his personal familiar and have a loyal ally in any emergency. Rumor has it that sometimes there are eggs that never hatch because their conditions are never met. The guy hopes that this is not the case at all. Even if he changes the source and power of the mana, there will be no reaction. We must forget about the hopes of quick success and take our sister's instructions slowly. Then in the future the egg will definitely hatch. Soon, Herman called him. They were supposed to go outside, but at that moment the egg started making strange sounds. The guy decided to check what happened, but the egg didn't move anymore, so it was probably just that. After that, he continued his training. If he wanted to become a legendary warrior, he had to learn to live on the training ground. You need to hone your every movement to perfection, constantly find balance, and increase your speed and strength. Dwayne usually trains using a spear, but today he wanted to be a fencer, just like Leila. Using a new weapon is always fun. He hadn't been given a sword before because his father was against it, but today a great opportunity arose. Meanwhile, the Count was in his room. He was tired of nothing interesting happening, the same thing every year. On the other hand, he achieved a lot during the last banquet, and was able to confirm that most of the nobles were paying attention to the south. The nobles hope for good relations with the southern territories, because since the war ended, everyone has been looking south. There is a wonderful climate and good living conditions, and people's curiosity is obvious. The Count also remembered the conflict that occurred during the second day of the celebration. He was surprised by his son's behavior. The guy turned out to be not only talented, but also behaved with dignity during an unpleasant situation, remaining calm and reasonable. In the most difficult moment, he even confidently demonstrated his talent. It seemed as if Dwayne was too mature. The father would like his son to remain small, but the duel is growing so quickly that he needs to be prepared for his entry into the academy. The Count took the dragon's tail with him and decided to take a little walk in the fresh air. He went outside and saw his son training but using a sword instead of a spear. He thought that Dwayne must have listened to the Duke's advice. Otherwise, he wouldn't have picked up this sword. In any case, he's confident enough to master any weapon, so you don't have to worry about him anymore. The strength he demonstrates is much stronger than that of those warriors who train their whole lives. It's not even clear where he learned it. The son said that this was his first training with a sword, and all this was nothing more than the child's ordinary talent. It's probably time for Dwayne to learn what the world really is, because the county is too small for his talent. He'll lose if he stays here. Now the father realized that he could not keep his son in his house forever. This bird had to be released. All that remains is to prepare for entering the outside world, and the father must do everything possible to ensure that Dwayne is ready for it. Today he brought him something special. It was the tail of a dragon that had reacted to the boy during their first meeting. This subject immediately feels incredible strength and energy. Dwayne has never felt anything like it before. No one can blame him anymore. He will do everything possible to make his talent for spear-wielding shine brighter than the sun. One day this spear will become his property, and by then he must become strong enough to wield it with his head held high. Returning to his room, the boy thought about the outside world. He was always curious about how people lived there. Even on those days when he walked the battlefields, he still thought about the outside world, although his whole life was filled with war and death. He constantly tidied up the camp, cleaned his weapons, and ate tasteless food, after which a new battle and new troubles would begin. Before him there was only one way to save himself: to end the war, to put an end to all these unpleasant battles and deaths. Otherwise, death awaited him, and as a result, he still ended this terrible circle, but not quite as he would have liked. Previously, he couldn't even imagine himself outside the battlefield, but in this life, the situation has changed radically. He doesn't know how he will use his talent, whether the world will accept him, and what exactly he should do in this outside world. Now he should be happy that he has the opportunity to travel everywhere and achieve everything he wants. Previously, he only dreamed of finding a warm nest and enjoying life, but thanks to his father, his thoughts changed. Soon his mother entered the room. She did it so imperceptibly that Dwayne immediately remembered her legendary past. Lily already knows that her son is preparing to meet the outside world, but she is ready to say goodbye to him just like she did to her daughters. This is a classic law of nature, so he should not be upset because the mother is left without children at home. It would be great if he spent more time at the family estate, but the outside world won't let him do that. He must accept this challenge, hold his head high, and confidently move forward and do whatever he wants. Dwayne promised that even after he left, he would still come back and tell her about everything he had seen in the outside world. Lily told him that it was time to learn some assassin tricks, such as avoiding ambushes and moving unnoticed. He will also have to study the structure of the human body, that is, everything he dreamed of in a past life. If he really wants to go out into the outside world, he needs to be fully prepared so that in times of danger, he feels strong and confident in his own abilities. In the southern region of the Altion Empire, the county of Sogre, the warm climate and wonderful natural resources attract people to come here. This place became one of the most visited by tourists in the entire empire. Some even stayed here for the rest of their lives. Everyone knows about the generosity of Count Sogre. Thanks to him, peace, tranquility, and warmth reign here. After many years of complete darkness, the war finally ended, and all the rebels were arrested in time. Now it seems that peaceful times will continue forever. This pleasant calm makes people happy. There were rumors among people that little Dwayne was already visiting stores. The salesgirl even lost consciousness when she saw him in her store. Rumor has it that he is getting more handsome every day, and now most of the girls in the county dream of meeting him. The boy is now 14 years old, but judging by what is being said about him, he looks much older. The girls from the county go to bed with dreams that he will fall in love with them, and they will live happily ever after. Let's move to the forest, which is located almost on the border of the county of Sogres. There are usually much fewer people here than in the very center. This area is steeped in ancient magic. This place is also called the Forest of the Last Days. It is here that Dwayne completes the escape mission he received from his mother, Lily Sogres. He had already seen the Cheryl spider, and realized that he had to go west, but he had to hurry, because he had to get out of here before sunset. Within a limited time, Dwayne had to avoid the ambushes set by his mother, as well as get out of the forest, which holds many dangers. He stopped and tried to breathe in the mana of the environment. It helps to gain additional strength and increase energy reserves. Also, with the help of this technique, you can see ambushes hidden in various places in the forest. When it seemed that the hardest part was ahead, it became clear that one could never relax in the forest in the last days. Now it's time to meet the animals that are called the Ruzel Stable. They have incredible speed, but Dwayne must do everything possible to escape from these huge squirrels. He acted with maximum concentration and tried to avoid traps, even though they were everywhere. One of these little monsters remained alive and began to attack with fire breath. Dwayne can't waste any more time. If he doesn't get out of here before sunset, he'll fail his mission. I had to show this rat who was boss and cut his little body into 2 separate pieces. I must admit that it was very effective, but in the future we will have to face much more dangerous monsters, and this trick will not work. Before sunset, the boy was able to get out of the forest, but he was so tired that he fell to the floor and thought about what would happen to him now. As soon as he lost his vigilance, he immediately felt the approach of an unknown creature and had to take up his weapon again. He was already preparing to attack, and only a little later did he realize that what was standing in front of him was not an enemy at all, but his own mother. He completed his task in 3 hours and 30 minutes, beating Lily Sogres' result. She's been watching him all this time because she knows his talent much better than anyone else, probably because he's her son. Lily said that Dwayne performed the task almost flawlessly and admitted that he was ready for real challenges. At this rate, this little brat could turn into a professional assassin with his talent. It won't be a problem. The time has come to hand him that legendary dagger called the Nightclaw. This weapon was created from a mysterious ore called Ifril. This ore can take on the elements of the object, and if desired, all the poisons of the world can be stored in it. Suddenly they both heard strange sounds in the forest, realized they were not alone here, and tried to understand what was happening. Let's move to the central tower of the Sogres estate. Many years have passed since we were here last time. Here you can meet an adult man who lost consciousness and woke up only a few days later. As soon as he woke up, the Count's son came to visit him, bringing with him medicine for detoxification. It turned out that this man had eaten bad mushrooms in the forest, but he was found in time, and now everything is fine with him. These were dangerous mushrooms. If he hadn't been helped in time, he would have long since become food for the wolves in the forest. On this man's belt you could see the symbol of Nixon's magic tower, so he is a very unusual man. He was the one who shouted during Dwayne's training, so he was lucky to have the people around him who saved his life. The man was told that he was in Sogres County and could not worry about his condition. Dwayne asked his man to continue his treatment and rest. The Count would come to see him soon. The man was very surprised when he realized that in front of him was Arabella's younger brother. He was the genius that all the magic towers were talking about. Dwayne said that he found this man during training, and it really surprised the patient. Even as an experienced sorcerer, he still went astray. His source of mana changed. He cast a spell, and then his body lost all strength. Dwayne said that this forest holds ancient mana. You can find traps everywhere there because it is the property of the Sogras family. For those who are not members of this family, it is better not to enter this forest, especially if it is a sorcerer, because this is the worst place for sorcerers. The man was surprised when he realized that the boy standing in front of him was already strong enough to train in such a dangerous forest. He looks like an ordinary teenager, but if you analyze his abilities, he is already a grown man. Dwayne was even able to create an antidote on his own, and for this you need to have enough knowledge. It's even surprising to see that such a brilliant family exists, with not only two talented sisters, but also a real young genius. If the war had still continued, the county of Sogra could have become the most powerful noble house in the Alteon Empire. The man said his name was Sidran House. He was very grateful to the guy for saving him, and wanted to repay him for it. He was recently the boss of the Nixon Magic Tower, so he is a very respected person in the wizarding world, not just an ordinary mushroom lover. Dwayne said he didn't want to rush into asking the sorcerer for help. Maybe in the future he would figure out how Gauss could repay him for saving him. The wizard was incredibly angry. This guy was the only one who talked to him like a normal grandfather. From the very beginning, he had planned to leave here in a day, but it looks like he will have to stay and get to know the heir to the Sogra family better. Soon everyone around learned that Dwayne had saved a very important person in the wizarding world. Sidran Gauss was the head of a magical tower that functions as an independent territory of this continent, that is, as a true nation. Now it becomes interesting why such a respected person got lost in the forest and decided to taste unknown mushrooms. Sorcerers usually consider this forest a forbidden zone. They call it the Forest of the Last Days. A little later, Dwayne thought it was time to find a new beacon, because this one was too light and short. All the trophy swords are gone, so he will have to go to the market and buy himself something new. After completing his training, the boy remembered that he had the opportunity to get a sword from the best forge on the continent. He just had to go to the capital. Many years have passed since that day, but if he ever goes to the capital, he must definitely visit the Duke. His father noticed that Dwayne was training very hard. He turned around early to watch his son's training. He also learned that the boss of the Magic Tower is in their estate. Perhaps he can help Arabella. Of course it's possible, but it will be difficult to deal with this lady's character, especially after she beat her own partner in training. Arabella has just recently finished her extended semester and is choosing which magical tower to enter. Claire is rumored to have received an invitation from her professor to accept an assistantship, which at her age is considered a great opportunity. Both sisters are incredibly talented, but their father hopes that his son will be able to surpass their achievements. He's curious how the world will react to all of Dwayne's talents. Maybe something special awaits him. Many years have passed, but the boy still dreams of meeting Booth Thermion, or rather, of a sword fight with this Duke. He is also interested in knowing how Leila is doing. Her last letter came about a year ago. When he goes to the capital, he must definitely meet this girl and find out how she is doing. A few days later, the industry learned that his recovery was still not complete. He needed to continue treatment and remain in the room. The sorcerer begins to go crazy from loneliness, but until his mana is cleansed, it is better for him to limit contact with the outside world. They tried to calm him down, but he said he couldn't stay in the four walls anymore and wanted to go out into the yard and breathe fresh air. Meanwhile, the maids were talking about wizards. They consider them either geniuses or psychopaths. They had already seen Gauss try to leave the room many times, but sometimes he would agree like a madman. The wizard ignored them and headed straight for the central garden, where the atmosphere was extraordinary today. He would never have thought that ordinary flowers could have such incredible power. This region is an ideal place for rest and recovery, although Gauss understands that he will soon have to leave. Dwayne, after greeting the sorcerer, said that he was also going to go to the capital to enter the academy. His sisters are known for having incredible talents, which is why the wizard is so curious to see what Dwayne is capable of. He began to analyze the boy and saw that his mana was incredibly dense, a sign of strength and power. If geniuses of his age can be called a stream, then this guy is a real stream, and you make even an experienced wizard worry. Dwayne immediately felt that his strength was being appreciated. He said that it was a sign of bad upbringing and he didn't like it. Although Gauss immediately apologized, he still continued to evaluate the boy and marvel at his talents. With this density, the sorcerer should see a circle of energy around the boy, but there is none. This can only mean one thing. This talented member of the Sogras family has 2 mana cores. Now it is unclear how, with such incredible mana density, he is going to fight with a spear. This means that Dwayne wants to give up an incredible talent that even the most famous wizards dream of. The guy remained calm and said that he wanted to use all his talents and was not going to limit himself to one thing. It's clear that for a sorcerer, this was something like an insult, because for every sorcerer, magic always comes first. He decided to tell why the lives of magical swordsmen are so short. They are incredibly strong because they have both a core and a mana circle, but these powers interfere with each other, and then they avoid the problem. That's why Gauss believes that Dwayne is wasting his talent, and he needs to change his approach to training. Most such attempts have failed, so if Dwayne wants to reach his full potential, he needs the advice of an experienced mentor. The guy plans to try magic without a mana circle. It's risky, but he's too overconfident. Although he has never tried anything like this before, the guy is sure that it could be possible. If you change the magic code correctly and don't rush this difficult process, something interesting may happen. Dwayne did it right now in front of an experienced wizard, and he got it right on the first try. Of course, this is only at the level of a basic single-chain magic spell, but even that is enough to shock Gauss. He had never seen people use magic without a magic circle. Such things could only be heard of in legends. Sister Arabella said that her brother has a high inclination towards magic. Perhaps that is why he manages to master this art so easily. Ordinary people call such skills an innate talent. Such children are born once a century. Although Gauss was irritated, now he would have to admit that this guy was capable of anything. All that remains is to ask him to become a student of the Magic Tower, because they cannot let such talent pass them by. Ignoring such an incredible talent would be a crime, so Dwayne should think about this offer. Gauss tried to convince the boy and told him about the various opportunities he would receive in the Magic Tower, but Dwayne was in no hurry to agree. At this moment, the Count of this estate intervened in their conversation. He had been following these two from a distance for a long time. The sorcerer immediately assured the Count that his son had incredible talent and should study in the Magic Tower. Considering that the guy had no full training in the basic techniques of a sorcerer, his talent is so impressive. The past boss of the Magic Tower immediately noticed the boy's talent, but that doesn't mean he will become his next teacher. Gauss also said that Dwayne can conquer any technique, and in the future write his name in history in golden letters. The sorcerer assured that Dwayne could even become a rare swordsman-sorcerer, although there are only a few such warriors on the entire continent. As soon as the Count heard that his son could be a swordsman and fight without the aid of a spear, his mood immediately changed. It would have been better to remain silent and not speak of such things in the presence of Count Sagre, but now it would be difficult to change his mood. Arkan began to shout at the sorcerer and said that his son would not be a magical swordsman. He was born to become a magical spearman. A little later, the wizard realized that he had been too hasty with all these proposals, and it was better to postpone them for a later Tamermayan. After that, Dwayne returned to his room. He knows that for any wizard, becoming an apprentice is a great achievement. Sorcerers usually raise heirs through an act called inheritance, a tradition that has been preserved since ancient times and is practiced even today. So this means that the boss of the Magic Tower is looking for not just a student, but a full-fledged heir. Considering that a powerful sorcerer constantly convinces the boy to become his apprentice, this means that Dwayne's talent is really as great as they say. After hearing a few compliments, Dwayne felt something twist in his body. He remembered how his older sister had approached him in the past and given him a crystal ball, in case he wanted to see her. This is the perfect opportunity to see Arabella again and talk to her about everything that happened the day before. At this time, his older sister was busy, but she still heard his call. The girl was immediately happy, because it had been a long time since she had heard the voice of her little brother, who had already turned into a real macho during all this time. She soon learned that he had used a single chain spell, which frightened Arabella. This spell worked on the first try, and when the sister heard about it, she realized that her brother had a greater talent for magic than she did. She decided to send him a mana stone. He must pour his energy into it for analysis. The guy is very happy that he has an older sister. She is always ready to come to the rescue in a difficult situation. He had long wanted to learn a lot about his energy, and when his sister promised to help, he calmed down. He also learned that he would attract too much attention if he continued to use chain-level magic, and he really didn't want that. Arabella assured that talent always attracts too much attention, but if anyone insults him, the older sister will destroy them all. She recently broke the nose of the eldest son of the Duchy of Duel for simply trying to be her friend. At that moment, the girl was told that the professor was urgently looking for her, so she had to say goodbye to her brother. She promised to send him a magic stone soon and wished him luck. Perhaps Dwayne is opening a path that didn't exist before. It's even hard for him to accept that his mana could be as pure as a dragon's. Back to Professor Gauss, after testing the guy's skills, he started to feel much worse. Right now, all he can think about is getting Dwayne to accept his offer of training, but there are complications with that. He is trying to do everything possible to attract the guy to his side. Perhaps to do this, he needs to give him some kind of artifact. Maybe Dwayne can change his mind if he gets the magic that past generations used. It soon turned out that Dwayne himself had come to the professor to talk. It seemed that he was ready to accept Gauss's offer, but this was not entirely true. Dwayne doesn't yet know the permutation code for two-chain magic, and it's hard for him to learn from his sister because she lives so far away. Now he understands that there is no better way to learn than to train with an experienced professor, especially after what happened. Dwayne saved his life, and now the professor must thank the boy and help him with his studies. He doesn't want to follow the path of a sorcerer alone. He dreams of becoming a magical spearman, an assassin, and a summoner at the same time, although such a profession doesn't exist. The professor decided to ask a direct question. He thinks the guy might need a letter of recommendation. According to rumors, Dwayne wants to enter the academy. If the professor writes him a letter of recommendation, then his reputation will be considered impeccable. If you carefully analyze Gauss's words, you can understand that this proposal is indeed very good and promising. Dwayne is interested in this letter, but at the same time he wants to know the setup code for the two-chain magic. It's very easy for an experienced professor to impart the necessary knowledge, but in return he will become even closer to this guy. Also, in this way he will be able to repay him for saving him in the forest. Because if it weren't for Dwayne, the professor would have died. The guy also reminded that he was not going to become the professor's student. This was just a way to repay debts. The rescue in the forest should be considered a very important act, because if Dwayne had not been there, everything would have ended very badly. He destroyed the poison in the professor's body and also brought him to a safe place, which can be considered a bonus. After listening to the guy, the industry realized that he no longer had the strength to resist and agreed to all these conditions. Soon they went to the training ground together to start training. If the professor continues to help the boy, then perhaps in the future he will change his mind and begin to fully study magic. It would be too great a loss to give up his talent and magical power, so we must continue to work. The magic of two chains is on a completely different level compared to the magic of one chain. This is due to the fact that you have to independently calculate the amount of mana, the density of mana in the atmosphere, and even the state of the body, all at the same time. At his young age, Dwayne already knows the laws of reconfiguration magic, the first law being coexistence. Magical power can exist with the physical world and other sources of mana, which is why sorcerers use magical power. The second law is related to storage. If magic can gather enough material, then when stored it will manifest itself through various attributes. The professor explained that every time a chain grows, its code also becomes proportionally harder. Instead of explaining, the professor tried to demonstrate in practice. He immediately activated the magic of one chain. This magic can be used according to simple rules. But when a second chain is included in the work, everything changes. In practice, everything is much more difficult than in theory, so it is unlikely that Dwayne will be able to easily master this technique. The professor spent a long time explaining the various elements and trying to show the boy that this was a very difficult technique. It takes most people at least a year to become fluent in the magic of two chains, so it will be a long journey. The professor wants to watch the boy and gradually teach him, but Dwayne wants to try right away. As soon as he received permission, he immediately began to create the magic of two chains. It's hard not to be surprised, but he immediately succeeded. Gauss was shocked again. He thought it would take a lot of practice, but Dwayne was able to repeat his technique on the first try. It was enough to remember the general rules and patterns, and it turned out that this whole technique is not as difficult as people say. Even the genius of the professorial school, Gauss, had to spend many hours of training to get to this technique. This boy was able to materialize the technique even without a global study of the theory, and now he wants to try the fire arrow technique. He succeeded again, and the professor almost swallowed his tongue again in surprise. If he had the same talent, he would be able to reach the level of his dream, which is to master the magic of the 9 chains. The entire wizarding world should lose its mind when it sees what this boy is capable of, especially when he heads to the capital. For now, the professor plans to hide Dwayne's talent, otherwise he will be taken away to another school of magic very quickly. Magic training turned out to be easier than Dwayne expected. Of course, he still had to learn the theory, but he had already made progress. If you think about it, in his past life he was in a situation where he had no choice but to give up magic. In these circumstances, when he didn't even know when he would die, finding time to study magic was too serious a luxury. To survive, he needed to work with a sword, and magic preferred theoretical learning over live practice. In this life, everything changes and turns upside down, so living becomes much more interesting. Combining the theory he learned from his older sister with his innate talent, he can demonstrate incredible progress. All of this is possible to achieve in a short period of time, especially considering that his teacher is an experienced professor. A few weeks after starting training with Gauss, Dwayne told his father that he wanted to create a magical reagent. They don't have the materials for this, so he will have to go beyond theory, but he is ready for it. Information about magical reagents is not easy to come by, but the boy found the theory in books at the library, As expected, geniuses are very different because most find reagents too boring. In any case, it will be a great experience for him. If he does it outside, he can explore the surrounding area. The boy was happy that his father gave him permission and supported him in his new studies. Very quickly, he gathered his things and set out into the streets of the county. The people around him welcomed him as their king. The girls almost fainted again when they saw this handsome man, but Dwayne remained calm and modest. The professor immediately noticed that Count Sogers did not look like a cruel lord. Probably this entire family was well-bred and taught good manners. In this county, it's easy to find delicious snacks, see great weather, and meet nice people, something you can't always find in the capital. They went to the magic item shop. It took them some time to find the entrance to the shop. Here you can see many interesting things called artifacts. As Dwayne looked at all these objects, he felt a sense of déjà vu. Nothing like this had ever happened before. When he started touching objects, he saw a magical reaction. Perhaps because he has a high level of susceptibility to magic. He felt that some of the items were causing a special reaction, although the saleswoman assured him that they were just decorative items. The professor continued to choose ingredients. Today, he is particularly interested in a potion made from moonroot. Meanwhile, Dwayne was still trying to figure out exactly which object he was feeling the strong boost of mana from. He saw the stone and realized that it was the same source of energy. If he saturated it with magic, the reaction would become even stronger. The seller said it was just a decoration, but ordinary decorations couldn't react to magical energy. The girl said that many years ago, a merchant gave her a large package as payment. When she opened the package, she saw that there was this stone inside, and she thought it was some kind of scammer. The girl did not know what it was and asked the sorcerer to evaluate the object, but it turned out that it was just an ordinary stone. She suggested that the young count look at an ancient scroll. It was much more interesting than any stones. This scroll can automatically read and save all the information on it, just by saying a person's name. Dwayne said he would buy the scroll, but only if he received it along with the stone. He is sure that these are very unusual stones, and he cannot leave this item here. Even Professor Gauss could not understand what special the boy saw in this stone. Dwayne decided not to explain anything. In any case, it's an unusual stone because it reacts to magic, which is enough to make you want to take it with you. They soon returned to the estate and analyzed the stone. The industry said that this object was nothing special. In order to be 100% sure, you need to check it using a special magical tool. As soon as they placed the stone on this instrument, magic immediately formed around it. Now the professor recognized that these were unusual stones. A code appeared before them. It's not just code, but rules, a structure, and a location he's never seen before. So the magic that is hidden in this stone manifests this code and holds the key to all the secrets of this object. The most interesting thing is that the magic in this stone responds only to Dwayne's mana and no one else's. The professor knows the right people who can find answers to these questions, and he promised to do everything possible to help. If he succeeds, Dwayne will be able to find out why his mana is different from other people's mana. Let's move to another place, or rather to Arabella Sogers' personal laboratory. Now she is constantly busy helping her brother and is ready to draw the first conclusions. There is a feature in the magic code her brother shared that even she doesn't have. But she still can't figure out what area of magic this energy is suitable for. The results are too vague. Magical reagents, magical gates, magical engineering, nothing fits. And that raises even more questions. Only after some time did she guess that the code to the magic field had been lost, and her brother's magic could be used to access it. She needs to explore many theories: alchemy, divination, spiritualism, and even necromancy. There is even a code of primordial magic. Only after some time did she realize that it could be related to ancient magic, and that's interesting. If we recall the past, many years ago there was a magical kingdom. There was also magic, which was inherited from Archon. Considering that this ancient magic is over 2,000 years old, there is no one who knows how to use it. A little later, Arabella began to laugh out loud. She realized that ancient magic could not be inside her brother. The girl thought she had nothing to lose, so she decided to check this information just in case. She was very surprised when the magic code began to show something in common with her brother's magic. She saw something so amazing that she was in a state of shock for a while. It seemed like she had finally found the answer to all her questions. Moving on to Sogres County, Professor Gauss continues to study a stone that was purchased at a regular store. The seal has finally been broken. All that remains is to analyze what is inside the stone. Only after some time did it become clear that it was a silver bracelet. All this time it had been inside the stones. It looks like an ordinary bracelet that you can buy on the street, and there's nothing special about its material. Since it only responds to Dwayne's magic, the guy should try to put it on his hand. As expected, this bracelet immediately caused a reaction, and Dwayne saw strange symbols. It's like ancient runes that no sorcerer in this world can read. In simple terms, these are symbols used by the ancient magical kingdom of Arkna. When Dwayne was little, he heard stories about this ancient magical kingdom from his sister. She said that in this era, all objects were built from magic. But one dark day, this entire glorious era ended. Only a few relics and stories remain from those times, passed down from generation to generation. Professor Gauss had understood all along that the boy's magic was special, but he could not even imagine that this magic was connected to an ancient kingdom. Perhaps that's why he can move through the forest of the last days so easily, because the magic of the forest comes from Archon. It seemed that there was nothing special about this bracelet anymore, but soon the professor and his student heard some strange sounds. This is more like an alarm signal. Maybe they were attacked by monsters, which means the professor needs to warm up a bit. He has long wanted to repay the county for its hospitality, and now he will be happy to destroy any scoundrels who attack this territory. Dwayne was in no hurry to reach for his weapon. He said that this sound was coming from the object in his pocket and was not related to monsters. This sound can only mean that his older sister wants to contact him immediately. As soon as he started talking to her, he guessed that she also knew about the connection of his magic with the ancient sorcerers of Archon. He told her what he had learned with the professor, and tried to understand what information she had been able to obtain. The girl immediately assured that it was better to keep all this information a secret, and not tell anyone, because the consequences could be terrible. If this is found out, the entire Sogra's house will face huge problems. The professor also stated that he wanted to return to the House of Magic and study this issue, and help Dwayne. He offered the girl to join his magic tower for training, but she assured him that the Nixon Tower specialized in a field that did not interest her. Now the professor realized that everyone in the Sogra's family is too self-confident. It's no wonder Dwayne behaves like that, because his sister is the same way. They agreed to discuss the details later and said goodbye to their sister. Ancient magic worries Dwayne very much. He decided to consult with his parents and ask what they think about it all. The father immediately declared that he would protect his son from any danger and would kill anyone who tried to touch him with even a finger. If this happens to his son, then the entire Sogra's family must carry the ancient magic of Archon. Lily promised to immediately check all family connections and potential cases of magical reactions. It will be very interesting to see what they can find if they analyze their predecessors from both sides. His mother believes that if Dwayne stays here, his development will slow down, so he should consider moving to the capital. The academy accepts students from the age of 14. He is already an adult and ready to take a step into independent life. His parents wanted to keep him at home for a few more years, but he needs to progress, so he can go to the capital at any time. In any case, he has a bright future ahead of him, so he should fully enjoy his talent. He was pleased that his parents were thinking of him, so he realized that this was the perfect chance for such an important step. He thanked them for their support and promised to start preparing for entering the academy. Soon he told his professor about his decision. Gauss congratulated the boy and advised him not to show too much talent at the academy. Although this place welcomes all the talented people of the world, it can sometimes lead to some difficulties. Arabella has already talked about some of the frustrating incidents at the academy involving students who are behind schedule. They also started talking about the Thermian estate. Dwayne remembered that he had promised to visit Leila. If he doesn't come to her, the girl will be very upset, and besides, he can use the Duke's gift and get new weapons. There are only a few months left before entering the academy, so we need to have time to prepare all our things for departure. Gauss said that he plans to return to the Magic Tower and solve some problems. Thanks to Dwayne, he was able to forget about boredom, and now he will deal with the issue of ancient magic and everything connected with it. They have little time left for joint training, so they need to speed up the pace. Finally, Dwayne also wants to give the professor a gift. He took out a very popular item and said that it now belongs to the professor. He received this item yesterday from his sister using teleportation magic. It is a new compact crystal layer. Arabella developed this product, and now the professor will also be able to always be in touch. After the conversation ended, Dwayne had a lot to think about, but mostly, his thoughts were about the academy. There are only a few months left, so there's no time to waste on preparation. He now wants to focus on his conscription training and enroll in a conscript class to improve his qualifications. Now his sister Claire works as a professor's assistant. Maybe it will help to see her more often. For 7 years in a row, he has been constantly imbuing his sister's gift with magic, but unfortunately, he has not seen any reaction so far. His mana doesn't go anywhere, but is completely absorbed by the familiar. The guy has no doubt that sooner or later everything will work out. The admission system to the academy is quite simple. It takes place in 2 stages, a regular and a special exam. The regular exam is a test of basic knowledge, followed by a special exam, where you will need to choose your field of study and pass the test. In general, Arabella is sure that Dwayne will easily enter the academy. It should not be a problem for him. The only problem is that once he chooses his specialty, he won't be able to change it in the future. This means that by the end of his studies, he will have to study only one specialty. That is why you need to approach this choice responsibly from the very beginning, because a lot will depend on it. Arabella dreams that her brother will choose a magical course, but he must make this decision himself. Each of his family members gives him different advice, so it's best to focus on your own feelings and desires. My sister also said that for incredibly talented individuals there is a system of autonomous specialization, which could be suitable for Dwayne. The sister advises against going this route because no student has ever been able to pass this exam. She hopes her brother won't even think about it, because magic is the best choice for him. Soon, Professor Gauss, just as he had promised, wrote a letter of recommendation for the boy. He did everything perfectly, not only in form but also in content, so this letter should help. Dwayne had already managed to prepare for moving to the capital. He also learned that the academy would give him the opportunity to settle in a dormitory. From what he's heard, the academy has become a gathering place for various hooligans of noble origin, but that doesn't scare him at all. The professor immediately stated that there you can meet guys who will not hesitate to show their teeth as soon as they feel that someone is better than them. This probably shouldn't scare our main character, because in his past life he had a much less sweet fate. Tomorrow the professor returns to the magic tower, but with the help of the crystal ball they can always keep in touch with each other. The professor probably wants to solve the mysteries of ancient magic. It would be very useful for Dwayne. They thanked each other for their help and agreed that they would meet again soon. The professor would still play an important role in our history. Dwayne has gotten used to the professor, but life doesn't stop and he has to move forward. He is already ready to leave for the capital. There should be no problems, although his parents are constantly worried. In any case, they raised wonderful children and should be proud of their parental talents. In other homes, children are constantly fighting over inheritances, but they don't have such problems. If Dwayne needs help, he can always turn to his parents and they will kill anyone who offends him. Let's not forget that his mother is a professional assassin, so she can also come to the rescue at any time. The time has come to say goodbye. It is a difficult moment for the parents, but they understand that it will be better for their son. Dwayne will travel to the capital via the teleportation bridge that Arabella built. There shouldn't be any problems. When the boy left, his father met a strange person and asked him to constantly watch over his son. Only when Dwayne is in the capital and safe can this man return and tell the Count about it. This man is called Shadow. He must make sure that everything is fine with Dwayne, and that will be enough for his parents to sleep peacefully. Let us remind you that the capital can be reached via a teleportation bridge. Herman decided to take the heir of the family to say goodbye to him in person. This teleportation gate was built with the help of the older sister's magic, which only confirms her talent. In order to build such a gate, it took more than a year of constant work. The teleportation will begin when Dwayne enters the circle. In order to build something like this, you not only need to work hard, but also make sure you don't make mistakes when writing the code. Mana must constantly flow into the project while the code is being reorganized. Only after that can the gate be activated. The teleportation gate is the perfect device that meets all of Dwayne's needs. To activate this teleportation gate, simply pour in your mana and the process will begin. Dwayne was sure that everything would go according to plan, because his sister had carefully checked this gate. Very quickly he found himself in the capital. It seems that everything went well, and now a new stage in his life begins. In front of him are the gates of the capital Artenia, and around him you can see many people, as well as many opportunities. He was immediately met by the captain of the 1st Division of the Knights of House Thermion, Luke Asmar, who had been waiting for young Dwayne Sawgrass for a long time. Dwayne began to worry when he realized that he was being personally met by a knight. This is what true respect means. Next, Luke will accompany the boy along with his warriors. They will ensure his free passage. Now Dwayne has strange feelings inside him. He could never have imagined that he would be in the very center of the Alteon Empire, which he hated so much in his past life. He tried to look around and remember what the capital looks like, because here you can find good infrastructure and beautiful buildings. There are many people around. Everyone is trying to make money from tourists, selling various goods and services. Soon he saw the house of the Thermion family. The size of this estate is much larger than the county of Sawgrass. Dwayne felt insecure. He felt like someone was watching him, but maybe it was just the excitement of meeting old acquaintances. He was warmly welcomed at the Thermion house. The etiquette of the knights and servants looks natural. There is a contrast with the southern region. The guy greeted the Duke. They hadn't seen each other for a long time. Many years had passed since their last meeting. The Duke was surprised, and seeing how much the boy had grown, he invited him into the house to talk. He hopes he will like this estate. They want to help him prepare for entering the academy. Now the Duke wants to understand if Dwayne has had a fight with his daughter, because she has changed a lot recently. For the past few days, she's been in a bad mood whenever she hears the name Dwayne, and it's very strange. Perhaps this is due to the stress of entering the academy, although Leila should easily pass the exams. The servant escorted the guest of the estate to the living room and left him alone. This is where Dwayne will live while preparing for the exam, and this is where the serious conversation will take place. It turned out that Leila had been waiting for him all this time and wanted to understand why he hadn't come to visit them for so long. The girl looks extremely irritated and dissatisfied that their meeting is constantly being postponed to the future. She is also angry that she has not received a single letter from Dwayne, even though they have been writing to him constantly. It turned out that the guy had completely forgotten about his promise to write letters. Now it was time to apologize. He said that he had been incredibly busy preparing for the move to the capital, and he would not make such mistakes again. It is noticeable that these words are not enough to change Leila's mood, but over time she will understand everything. He suggested that she relax and have a practice duel. It might help them get closer after a long separation. Leila is sure that Dwayne will be very surprised when he sees her martial arts, because she has become much stronger since their last meeting. She is no longer the whiny child that Dwayne taught her to release mana. She has truly grown up and is now very confident in her own abilities. They agreed to start the duel tomorrow morning, right after they woke up and did all the important things. And from the very morning they met and prepared for a training duel, it turned out that Leila wanted to fight with real swords. Dwayne wanted to use wooden weapons to ensure safety, but Leila thinks they are just child's play. Their residence has the best healers in the Empire, so if something bad happens, they will be cured very quickly. Dwayne was still against this idea and assured the girl that it was better to fight with wooden swords. She really changed and became a very confident young lady. All the rumors about her were true. Soon she will reach the level of her older brothers. If she proves stronger than them, then House Thermion will see the first ever matriarch in the family. Learning to release mana was a turning point in her development, giving her the push she needed to progress. With this technique, she learned the basics of magic much faster than other children her age. Everyone received a wooden weapon and began preparing for the duel. Although it was only training, anything could happen. Leila already has experience in such battles. A few years ago, she competed in a competition called the Dantier Cup. She fought against a professional spearman, and for her this battle was quite easy. The spear is a long-range weapon. The threat quickly diminishes once the fight moves to close range. I decided to immediately approach and strike from close range in order to reduce the risk of a counterattack. It seemed to her that she had hit the target exactly, but at the last moment her opponent disappeared somewhere. Only a little later did she realize that he had dodged in time and managed to strike back. She should thank him for using wooden weapons, because if things had been different, Leila would have been seriously injured. She is sure that her husband touched him, but his speed was too lightning fast. Dwayne suggested another round, but the same strategy wouldn't work anymore, so she had to attack more carefully. The girl thought that she was just excited because they hadn't seen each other for a long time and that things would be much better during the second round. Of course, the Duke closely followed this duel. We remember how much he dreamed of these two becoming closer and forming an alliance between their families. After winning the Dantier Cup, Leila wants to demonstrate her full potential, which is why she is trying so hard. She also knows that her father is watching her, so she is ready to hit at full power. Now Dwayne will have to do everything possible to defend himself from this attack, because she has changed her technique. The girl is confident that she will be able to seize the initiative if the fight takes place at close range. Oddly enough, Dwayne did not lose his self-control and asked the girl to increase her speed, because she was capable of more. Now they both look like equal opponents. The Duke is curious how this duel will end. He looked very carefully and saw that Dwayne's face had previously been smiling, but now it had become serious. The battle continued. Leila tried to find weaknesses in her opponent's defense and constantly attacked. She was so focused on the attack that she completely forgot about defense, lost her balance, and fell to the ground. It seems that Dwayne won again, but this time Leila managed to demonstrate her skill and progress. The father had long noticed that after the fencing tournament, his daughter's behavior had changed significantly. He considered having a stern conversation with her, but then decided to give her time to sort out her internal problems. Analyzing Dwayne's technique, we can conclude that he has at least 3 mana cores. Now he defeats his opponent not at all due to speed and strength, but tactical skills that Leila does not know how to use. His movements are perfectly balanced, and he doesn't even have to connect his internal energy. It feels like an experienced warrior is fighting Leila, even though he's just a teenage boy. Leila has become a real woman. She has grown up and her father no longer calls her a child. 7 years ago, after a trip to the southern region and meeting Dwayne, her life changed. The young lady was able to win the Dantier Cup, but even now she's nowhere near Dwayne's level. It seems that Count Sagres taught his son very seriously, because otherwise such progress would be almost impossible to achieve. Even the Duke understands that this boy has a natural talent. He learns much faster than his peers. He didn't participate in various tournaments, not because he didn't have the opportunity, but because he wasn't interested. Currently, among children his age, there is no one who could match him in terms of potential and current capabilities. In this duel, Leila must understand all her flaws and strengths. forget about her self-confidence, and practice with the sword more often. Only in this case will she be able to bypass her brothers and take the place of the heir of this family. Now the girl is very angry and cannot understand why Dwayne is so much stronger than her. She can't believe that such a level can be achieved only through training. There must be some other secret. Dwayne is not going to talk about it. He said that Leila should train hard and then she will also feel progress. If you look back, you can see that he is the only one of all her rivals whom she respects. On the other hand, he was the person she always dreamed of defeating. Leila wanted to show that she was not just a child waiting for advice. The girl promised that next time she would definitely win. But for this, she would have to work day and night. The Imperial Academy exam can be considered a kind of festival, all because talented individuals flock to the capital from all the surrounding territories. If you include their families and servants, thousands of people gather in the capital at the same time. This year, there are approximately 6,000 applicants, and this is not a record at all. There are no other conditions for admission other than payment, but approximately a third of applicants are eliminated during the first exam. Now, after the first selection, 2,000 young men are waiting for the second specialist exam. It is believed that of all these young students, only a tenth will enter the academy. The Dean of the Faculty of Magic, Professor Dinavo, is sure that they will meet real talents. The Dean of the Faculty of Spearmanship, Lady Ingrid, is meanwhile busy calculating the scores for the first exam. It is believed that the first place in the fencing department should be the young lady of the House of Termion because she won the Dantier Cup. The Dean of the Faculty of Convocation, Lady Delfineso, believes that the Duke of Term has done an excellent job of raising his daughter. The Dean of the Fencing Faculty, Professor Estaranda, recalled that the Duke also had wonderful sons who also studied at this academy. They also saw that a letter of recommendation had arrived from the Nixon Magic Tower, signed by Professor of Magic Gauss. Everyone around is surprised that such an experienced professor decided to recommend one of his students. They began to think that it must be some incredibly talented guy or girl. Maybe it was Leila Termion. Everyone knows the story of Gauss, who is famous for refusing to take on students because everyone around him was not talented enough. Now he recommends some guy, and says that this kid already possesses 3 chains of magic. All the faculty deans are interested in getting to know this child and understanding who he is. When they heard that this guy was Dane Soger, they would be very shocked for a while. Everyone knows that the Soger's house already has 2 geniuses in the magic and summoning faculties. Now it turns out that they have a 3rd child who received a letter of recommendation from an experienced professor. It seems that children from 2 great houses of the Empire are entering the academy at the same time. This event is worth noting. The magic faculty will be very happy if Dwayne chooses them and studies with his older sister. The first exam evaluation was completed a few minutes ago, and the results are ready. Most people will try to enter the Faculty of Fencing. In second place is the Faculty of Magic. In the fencing department, Leila Termion took first place, but so far no one can find the last name Sogras. This guy was recommended by an experienced professor, but he doesn't appear on any of the best lists. It turned out that one of the students applied for admission using the autonomous assessment system. We already remember what Arabella said about this. No one had been able to pass this exam before. It turned out that this person was Dwayne Sogras. He received the highest score on the first exam among 6,000 applicants. Now everyone around understood who this guy really was. He was a true genius and an incredible talent. It's been a month since Dwayne arrived in the capital, although it feels like the duel with Leila was just yesterday. They have already passed the first exam and are waiting for the results. It turned out that the exam was not very difficult. Leila found her friend on the training ground and was very excited. She told him that he had taken first place among all the students and became even angrier about it. She always dreamed of being the best, but this guy constantly shows perfect results. It's impossible to compete with him. It turned out that he worked really hard and studied a ton of notes in the library to prepare for the exam. His past life experience also helped him. Military experience is also important when entering the academy. The exam also included questions about art, music, and even the history of the Drenic Empire. Regarding the history of the Drenic Empire, Dwayne knows everything, because he fought for this empire in a past life. A little later, Leila found out that he had applied for an autonomous specialty. This guy is too cocky. He needs to be put in his place a long time ago. Leila told Dwayne that there had not yet been a single student in this program who could enter the academy. On the other hand, under this program, Dwayne will not be able to attend classes in all majors until graduation. He won't have to make a choice, which is what makes this faculty so interesting and special. In order to enroll in the Autonomous Specialist program, a student must pass an exam at 3 faculties. It is believed that this is almost impossible, because no one has been able to do it before. The best indicator is passing 2 exams at the same time. Most students can't even pass one particular exam, so this will be a very difficult task for Dwayne. Unlike the current state, 100 years ago, the academy needed the best talent. They can be understood, because it was wartime then, and it was necessary to immediately use these talents for the benefit of the empire. Students now strive to become the best in one area rather than being mediocre in several areas at the same time. That's why few people choose this autonomous specialization now. But Dwayne decided to take a chance. This system remains active only because it was the case before. But none of the teachers take it seriously. Now everyone understands that only an incredible genius can pass this exam, and that genius could be the heir to the war hero, Dwayne Sawgris. He was born into no ordinary home, so don't underestimate this guy. In any case, this scoundrel has enough self-confidence to challenge the academy's symbol, so he knows what he's doing. Soon the second exam for entering the academy began, and Sawgris arrived and greeted the teachers. He said that he understands what he is doing, understands that he will have to pass a difficult exam, but he is ready for it. They tried to hint that it was not too late to abandon this path, but the boy refused. The exam will consist of 3 different tests related to the specialties he chooses. If he fails at least one of these tests, he will automatically not be able to enter the academy. The first test will be the theory of conscription. Delfineso is ready to see what this guy is capable of. She is rumored to be the best summoner in the Alteon Empire, holding the record for summoning 3 high-ranking creatures at once. The test should be simple. Delfineso is willing to be satisfied with the student's basic knowledge. This means that this exam will be free-form, without any standard, and this simplifies the task. Dwayne immediately asked his teacher to summon any creature of his choice. Other teachers couldn't understand what was happening. The applicant shouldn't ask the professor to summon a creature. They look at him and can't understand what he's up to. Everyone expected knowledge of the theory, but he's doing something inadequate. It seems like Dwayne wants to take this opportunity to see what a real challenge looks like. In any case, the professor is interested. She decided to play this game and tried to summon her personal monster. After a few seconds, a huge creature with red eyes appeared. When you look at this wolf, it seems like you are looking into the eyes of death. It is not known how such a monster can be stopped. There is no doubt that Dwayne has not encountered anything like it. This creature belongs to the 4th rank, and is known for attacking anyone it sees except its owner. The professor summoned the creature. Now Dwayne must show what he wanted to do. Everyone around knows that among all the 4th rank werewolves, this werewolf is the most dangerous and aggressive. The other professors were scared and excited. They began to suspect that the students were about to tear him into a million pieces. Oddly enough, this guy remained calm. He knows that he must demonstrate all his talents in this discipline. He asked all the professors to calm down and said that nothing strange would happen to him because he knew what he was doing. A few seconds after he raised his hand, the werewolf calmed down and lowered his head. No one around could understand what was happening. It was like some unknown hypnosis using black magic. The experienced summoner was shocked. She is a summoning professor, but she has never seen anything like this in her entire life. This student, Dwayne Sawgris, has truly conquered this werewolf, and now speaks to him as if he were his friend. It's like an innate empathy that no one has ever encountered before. In any case, it's enough respect. It seems as if Dwayne analyzed the monster's mana and then formed a similar energy to connect the werewolf to himself. His talent is much greater than that of Professor Delfineso, although she was considered a genius at one time. She tried to remain calm, approached the student, and said that this was enough to assess his capabilities. He has a strong spirit, a cool mind, and a solid knowledge base, exactly the kind of students the academy needs. The first step was taken very confidently, but that doesn't mean that the rest will be easier. Towards evening, Dwayne returned to the Termian estate and met with Leila. He told her that he had completed the first test in half an hour. No wonder she was shocked. Their father threw a small party to celebrate their entrance to the academy, but now Leila is in no mood at all. She can't believe that there is such a huge difference between them. It's like a natural cataclysm that nothing can be done about. The Duke asked the boy to calm down and not touch his daughter. She needed to be given some time to think about everything that had happened. Dwayne has already told his parents all this news. They are happy and wish him good luck in the future. In the capital, everyone is also excited about the student who will study in an autonomous specialty. Now he must prepare for studying at the academy. Then the Duke began to talk about the desired weapon for Dwayne, but the boy had not yet made a choice, although he constantly thought about the sword. It seems like he's still too young to make such a difficult choice, especially since it's unclear exactly what sword he wants. This is an incredible opportunity, very important, so he wants to spend some time thinking about it. A little later, a servant approached the Duke and said that his wife was calling him, and Booth Thermian immediately went to her. Only now did I realize that the Duchess's condition had not improved in all these years. In fact, she hasn't gotten any worse, but she's still just as sick as she was a few years ago. Dwayne has never seen his family members in this condition, so he doesn't fully understand what this family is going through. 2 more days have passed since this conversation. Time in the capital flies faster than lightning. Academy Director Arkwald Hammett congratulated the students who entered his educational institution. Looking at all these students, he said that he believed that the Empire had an incredibly bright future. Everyone who stands before him undoubtedly has great potential and innate talent. He also can't help but notice that this time, among the new students, there are some particularly talented people. Even a student appeared in an autonomous specialty, something that hasn't happened in many years. This student passed the exam from professors from 3 faculties at the same time, and is now becoming a living legend in the Academy. The Academy Director asked this student, Dwayne Sawgrass, to step forward and show himself to everyone else. Dwayne took a few steps forward, and all the students who entered the Academy saw this genius. Everyone around started discussing this guy and remarking on how tall and handsome he was. If you look closely, among these people you can find the Sogr family. They are happy because they raised another talent. The Duke is a little jealous of his friend because he raised 2 sons, but he is not very happy with their behavior. Their younger sister entered the Academy. It's an important day for her, and they didn't even come to congratulate her. The Duke envies his friend because he would also like to have 2 daughters. It's always easier with them. Leila is a little sad today. She always loses her temper at such events because her mother can't be there. With this guy's level of empathy, maybe he could summon creatures from the horizon. Beyond the horizon, that's what they say about another world from which creatures have come to us on a call. Contact with them was lost over 100 years ago, but Dwayne can establish this connection. Soon the boy met with the director of the Academy, an experienced master of his craft and a respected aristocrat. He hopes that Dwayne will be able to demonstrate all his talents at his academy and make it famous throughout the world. Now it's time to hear the oath of the freshmen who have entered the academy. Dwayne was happy. His first goal had been accomplished, although it took a lot of work. He doesn't want to waste his new life on fun and games. This is just the beginning of something big. Let's move on to the main auditorium of the academy. This is where our acquaintance with this large educational building ends. The freshmen were allowed to enjoy snacks and rest after the oath-taking. Leila immediately informed her friend that now the maximum attention of the other students would be focused on him. It doesn't matter whether they try to befriend him or become enemies. In any case, you have to be careful. If he hears any suggestions, he should think carefully about the answer, because there are children here who were hardly raised in childhood. During the break, more experienced students try to get to know the freshmen and lure them into their clubs. Dwayne had already learned about a large number of interesting clubs from his older sister, so this was not news to him at all. Leila said that to start with, they should get out of here immediately and hide in a calmer environment. The wrestling club members are already dreaming of taking this young talent to their club. There are many different clubs in the academy, all of them focused on Dwayne becoming a part of them. Leila isn't going to share this guy with anyone else, so she's trying to get him away from here. Dwayne is used to being chased by enemy soldiers, but now he experiences completely different feelings. The life of a student is different from the life of a soldier. In the university corridor you can see Keltis Redfield. He resigned from his position as commander of the Imperial Knights and became a professor. Previously, he did almost nothing, because no one studied in the autonomous specialty, so the professor was busy writing articles and relaxing. Now a student has joined this faculty, so this professor will have to work hard. Soon he finally met his first student. Perhaps this was the beginning of something big. They went into the office. The professor made some tea for his student and decided to talk. He had worked for a long time to get this position and did not want to train anyone. He had had enough of training the knights of the imperial family. Now the professor wants to know why Dwayne decided to apply for an autonomous specialty. The guy explained that he doesn't want to choose a separate profession, but on the contrary, he wants to study everything at the same time. If this continues, the Celts will have to spend a lot of time in lessons with this scoundrel. If we analyze the situation, Dwayne did not pass the fencing exam, which means that he feels insecure holding a sword in his hands. The professor immediately started talking about sword martial arts skills and suggested some practice. Dwayne is not a fool. He very quickly guessed that the Celts did not like his presence, and this was bad news. They agreed to start fencing training immediately. For the professor, this was a good chance to do everything to get the boy expelled from the academy. They went to the training ground, but the Celt has no idea how talented this guy is. He will soon find out.